She was my grandmother.
My mother.
My wife.
My grandmother.
Mother.
Wife.
I don't remember if she was ever formally diagnosed, but I do remember what it felt like when she couldn't remember who I was.
We used to play cards together, and now I realize that maybe some of the first clues that there was a problem is when she couldn't remember what card to play next, and I thought she was just messing around.
Her friends stopped coming by. Her sister didn't call. As the disease progressed, Marcia would sit in the park with her aide and call her sister's name to every red-haired lady who went by.
Cherna! Cherna! Cherna!
I begged her sister to call.
Before she got sick, I used to watch TV with my grandmother, me on the floor eating tangerines. I was an annoying kid, and I would always call, "Harmony, harmony, harmony."
What?
She would always win with her patience and longevity. Later, after she was hospitalized, we were all in a room together, and she asked, "Who is that?" She thought my aunt was her sister and that I was her daughter. She had always been there in my life, but now she couldn't remember who I was, and that was really upsetting.
My father died in a car accident when I was 2 years old. It was just my mother and I for the rest of her life. She was always there for me when I needed her, and now she needed me.
We don't talk about sickness in my family, physical or mental. It's a cultural thing. My parents were born in post-war South Korea, and they didn't know how to navigate the health system here. My mom's a manicurist. They didn't grow up with healthcare or health insurance, and we never really talked about it. I always remember wanting to ask, "What's going on with Grandma?" It was a question I was too afraid to ask, because we don't ask questions like that in my family, so I never did.
I did the one thing I thought I'd never do. I got married. When I was younger, I was irresponsible and I dated a lot of women. Whenever any of them brought up the subject of marriage, I'd break out in a cold sweat because I knew that there were only 1 to 4 weeks left of the relationship. I'd act like a jerk to make breaking up easier. Luckily, in our 5 years of dating, Marcia never brought up the subject of marriage. In the end, it was I who brought it up. We were sitting in her kitchen, sipping wine and planning a trip to Italy when I said, "Wouldn't it be great if we could get the Pope to marry us?"
You can't do that.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. The next day, I called the Italian consulate. It was like placing a pizza order.
I'm going to Italy and I want to get married by the Pope.
When will you be in Italy?
Mid-September.
You're Catholic.
Yes.
You've never been married.
Never.
Your bride-to-be, she's a Catholic.
No, Jewish.
Oh, no. She's never been married.
Divorced.
Oh, no. She's divorced in Philadelphia?
No, Haiti.
Oh, no. Okay, this is what's got to happen. She's coming to the Italian consulate here with 4 people, no related to her, say, this is a her, she's a no marry, she's a divorce. He's to go to the Italian consulate in Boston with 4 people, no related to him, say, this is a him, he's a no marry, he's a divorce. Then we get the Italian consulate in Haiti to confirm the divorce take a place. The next day, I called Marcia to prove myself. And she said, why don't we get married in Philadelphia and make it our mission to find gold-carved wedding bands in Italy?
So I guess that's how I tricked myself into getting married. Marcia changed our wedding vows to say, to love, honor, and protect. She said she couldn't imagine obeying me, but she promised to protect me forever. At the ceremony, I was nervous and scared. And when the judge said,
Would you take Marcia to be your lawfully wedded wife?
my mouth was open, I couldn't get the words out until Marcia put her elbow into my ribs. I do.
You may now kiss the bride.
So that was it. We were married November 28, 1981, and protected each other for 35 years.
It took me a while to figure out what was wrong with my mother. I would go to her house, she would have books all over. I would ask her what she was reading, but she couldn't tell me. Or she'd be watching a baseball game on television, and I'd ask her what teams are playing, and she didn't know. So I started cooking for her at home. I'd put food in containers, label it, take it to her house, and put it in the freezer. I'd go back a couple of days later and ask her how was the food. She would tell me, oh, it was good. But when I looked in the freezer, everything was still there. The same for her medication. It was either all there or all gone. So I knew then I was going to have to start staying over. And I hired someone to come and spend time with her while I was at work. However, If I wasn't there, she wouldn't let them in. So I had taken her car away from her, and one day she went out walking, and she fell and wound up in the emergency room. She was unable to give them any information. Fortunately, one of my coworkers walked by, saw her there, and told the hospital who she was and how to contact me. Now, I'm a very logical person. I was an EMT, but I worked 12-hour shifts. So either I would quit my job and stay home with her full time or place her into a facility. It was not a difficult decision.
I kept going to visit my grandmother, but I always wonder, is she ever going to acknowledge who I am? My mom said she knew who I was, but I wasn't so sure, and I tried not to think about it because it made me sad and a little frustrated. When she finally moved to the nursing home, she couldn't communicate. She had friends at church, but I don't remember if any of them ever came to visit her. She only spoke Korean, and there was only one Korean nurse at the nursing home. So my grandmother never really understood. So nobody knew anything, and nobody really talked about anything. That's what made me want to go to medical school.
I kept the diagnosis from Marcia. I knew, but she didn't know. The reason I didn't tell her was because of my wedding vow. I was bound to protect her. There was nothing she could do about the disease. There was nothing I could do. And I thought if she knew what she had, it would cause her a lot of worry and concern, and I tried to protect her from that. One day she said to me, "I think I have Alzheimer's." I said, "Why do you say that?" She said, "I don't know." She says, I just think I have Alzheimer's." I said, "Well, I wouldn't self-diagnose. I'd wait for a doctor to tell me I had something like that." Several months later, she said to me, "There's something wrong with my head." I said, "Like what?" She says, "I don't know. I keep forgetting things." I said, "Well, I forget things. Our daughter Steph forgets things. The three of us together help each other remember." Now I wonder if I should have done that differently. I never wanted to put Marcia in a facility. I cared for her at home. In the beginning, I could leave and go to my office, but because she was forgetting things and smoking cigarettes, I had cameras installed in the ceiling of every room. Eventually, her doctor called and said she was a danger to herself. At that point, I hired full-time help and learned as much as I could about the disease. I told Marcia the aides were her personal assistants.
My grandmother couldn't be left alone either. She had to wear diapers, and my aunt struggled to take care of her and work full-time. I remember overhearing all of her siblings argue about what should be done with my grandmother. I wish I had known and understood. I loved her, and I wanted to be part of the conversations. I wanted to know what was going on with Grandma. I wanted to know.
One morning, Marcia woke up and said to me, "Where's Mom?" I said, "Downstairs." She said, "Have my sisters gone to school yet?" I said, "Oh, yeah, they're gone." She said, "Do I have to go to school today?" I said, "No, you don't have to." She said, "Oh, thank goodness," and pulled the covers up over her head. She was confusing me with her father. Some people would ask me if that wasn't upsetting, and I'd say, no, it's not. She's not confusing me with people she hates. She's confusing me with people she loves. During the last several months of her life, I had difficulty understanding what she was saying, and I would try to detect from the tone of her voice whether yes or no was the right answer. And if I said yes and she became agitated or upset, I'd say, "Oh, no, I meant no." I later realized that the best way to respond was simply to say, I forget. I'm not sure I remember. That kind of put us both on the same page because Marcia was forgetting things too.
My mother was in a facility for 10 long years. She was the longest resident there. In the beginning, we would used to go shopping, go out to dinner, but then she started to fight us. I watched her deteriorate, and all I could do was sit and talk to her and read to her. I would try to decipher what decade she thought we were in, and then I'd become whomever she wanted me to be. One day, she even asked me, "How come we never got married?" And I just looked at her and laughed and said, I don't think it was a good idea. After my mother died, about 2 years later, I went to the Alzheimer's Association and asked them, "What can I do for you?" I am now a community educator. In the African American community, we do not discuss mental health, and we definitely do not place our family members in a facility. There is a big need for education.
When I was 15 years old, my grandmother told me, I want to die. After we left the room, we never talked about it again, and I still wonder why nobody asked me what I thought about that. There have been so many unknowns in my family, and I felt as if I should be seen and not heard. So when I was 21, I decided to seek my own answers. Now I ask questions and I don't mince words. As a medical student, I pay particular attention to the family members and ask them how they're doing, because I know what it feels like to feel invisible. I start the important conversations. She was my grandmother.
My mother.
My wife.
She was a woman from the farmland in Korea who died in an American nursing home where no one spoke her language. Her life and her death inspired me to become a physician.
She had been a social worker. Part of her responsibilities was to make sure that children in her care were taken care of safely. And now I had to make sure she would be taken care of safely.
She protected me fiercely. I did the same for her. I have no regrets.